Where's Carla?
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here. How's everyone doing today on, you know what day it is? It is Terrific Thursday. Welcome, everyone, to the Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one of three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella where people can discuss topics related to the workplace, uh, and also humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today because it is our goal, our mission, our purpose, and I dare say our calling to truly bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Please feel free to invite your friends, family, coworkers, and yes, even those lazy coworkers are looking at you like, Osmo, I'm ready for the live stream. It's Humanity Happy Hour. Where's my happy hour treat? I want my treat. We love to also them to be a part of the show as well. So please remember, 15 minutes before each call, we have a 15-minute mini greet. So if you'd like to join us, we all like to have a great and engaging conversation, get to know each other. So please, we would love to have you a part of that too. And also, Sandy hosts Sharing Care with Sandy on Tuesday. I host Conversation for Humanity on Wednesday, and of course, Miss Carla always hosts Humanity Happy Hour on Thursday. And as you're jumping on, whether it be our Facebook business page, LinkedIn Live, which is what we're currently on right now, or on our YouTube channel, please feel free to let us know where you're watching from. Put any show topics you want, questions or concerns, or anything you want to get engaged with. We would love to have you. And also, in today's platforms, there will be the Humanity Happy Hour link, which will be at the bottom of the already. The links are there, and you just have to click on that one to join us. And we'd love to have you on the show. So, hello, Miss Carla, and hello, Miss Sandy. How are you doing today?
Great. How about you, Chris?
I am doing great.
Hey,
We
Chris,
missed you yesterday, Carla.
I won't go into the story.
No. That's a no.
I was not out playing golf.
You were with your dad, right?
Brian even asked me, he goes, "Oh, did you talk to the golf pro?" I said, "Oh, I wish." Let's put it this way. Dad's retiring December the 1st. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Michael, we're glad to see you're here today. And Graham, we're glad to see you're here today. We are feeling great today on Terrific Thursday. We're just glad that you're here. And again, we're so thankful and honored that both of you are here today. And hopefully even Brian will show up. So we're just glad that you're here. And like I said, Michael, yesterday, I know you're still in the hospital. Our thoughts and prayers are still with you today. So please be thinking of us, and we'll be thinking of you. We want you to get back to a full recovery and get you back involved in what we're building here. So we miss you so much. So, but yeah, Miss Carla, that's another story for another time.
Oh yeah, I could do a stand-up routine.
I think you could. I think you could do that.
I could. People hear the stories and they're just like, "You've got to be kidding me." But you know what? It goes to show that I'm exactly where I need to be and what I'm doing with my business and having time with my dad. And you know, I wouldn't trade these crazy moments for anything. So.
And that's great to hear, Michael. Things are getting better. It won't be much longer. That is awesome to hear, Michael. That is great to hear. So I have great news. We have now, and I have to probably look it up. In fact, I can't do it because I'm on the live stream, but I can do it on my phone real quick because that's the quicker way to probably do it. There's one post that has really gotten a lot of traction, and I'll probably have already done it on, where's it at? Right here. It's about the one that, like you told me about, don't be impressed by money, followers, degrees, titles. Be impressed by humility, integrity, generosity, and kindness. Now, that post I originally posted about 4 days ago. I don't know if you guys can see it, and I'll put it right here. It has gotten, and there it is, over 2,845 people worldwide who viewed that post.
Cool.
Great.
And it's amazing because I totally agree with that. I'm not impressed by money. I'm not impressed by followers. I'm not impressed by degrees or titles. I am truly impressed about being humble, with integrity, generosity, kindness. Um,
I'm hoping that those 20, I'm not about followers and how many likes and all the vanity metrics or anything like that. I'm hoping that 2,800 plus people actually feel the same way.
I agree, and it's exactly what Michael just said. We're gaining traction from it because creating the conversation that really resonates with the heartbeat of humanity, it pulls to their heartstrings because that's what makes humanity so unique by design. Is we can be of a collective mindset and come together, but we can do it from an individual standpoint to really is embracing what we have been innately given as gifts, the act of giving, the act of receiving, the act of understanding your place and space in the grand thing that is life. And that's a beautiful thing because like Michael just said about sharing a vision creates not only opportunity, but creates an environment that people can be a part of. And I'm just so humbled and honored to be a part of this. I really am, and I'm sure you guys are too, because you guys have really impacted me in such a way. I really know in my heart of hearts I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you all. I truly I believe in that.
Carla, you got my email, right?
Did I get your email? Oh, I didn't. I haven't been an email today. I'll look later.
Okay, well, I sent it to you yesterday.
Okay.
I added the paragraph about why I joined this.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll look at it later.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Probably sent it after I went through my emails yesterday. So
Okay.
Good.
I don't.
So we can we probably maybe do the official fur babies are bringing humanity together? Why did Cosmo join, or why did Apple join? I think that'd be absolutely cute.
Sandy, I saw this cute little reel that somebody did with a dog with booties on, trying to get the booties off, and I thought of Apple.
Well, my daughter decided, Chris, because Apple doesn't like to walk outside. Her feet are too tender or something. I don't know. So
sure, yeah.
Booties. So she put them on her, and of course, Apple immediately took them off. She just pulled
Like a
them off.
toddler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa figures she's like a human. I mean, she likes to eat human food, and she probably, Lisa figures that Apple thinks she's part human.
Oh, yeah, probably. Probably.
Because she said she is just like a kid. And I said, well,
yeah,
you treat her that way, so it's not surprising.
Yeah.
That is true.
Well, now when I take Cosmo out for a walk, he used to go and do the cul-de-sac and come back, and now he's discovered that if he really
I will say this though, Miss,
to walk,
yeah,
and we go to Skip and Sue's, he's going to get treats.
Yeah.
And he'll go around to the back. Well, he'll want to go around to the back of their house, and I'll say, no, we have to go to the front door first. And he comes around and goes to the front door, and he sits and waits for them when I ring the doorbell. And then they come out, and then he kind of takes off because he knows we're going to go around to the backyard and sit on the patio. And he'll go over to the back door and sit there waiting for treats because he knows that they're going to come out for treats. The other day, we were sitting around the table. There were, one chair that was free. He jumped up on the chair and jumped up on the table.
Oh my God.
Looking for treats.
But I will say though, I saw your pictures of your Halloween decorations in your front yard, and
Oh, that wasn't my yard. That was other people's yard.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. That's what.
I saw Cosmo. I was like, Cosmo has Halloween thing going on.
Cosmo had to check it all out. He even there's the house that had the skeleton.
Yeah.
He actually sniffed their rear ends.
Oh, yes.
He's dying laughing.
Oh
You
man.
know the difference, you know? Like, wow, these are really thin dogs.
Yeah, very bony.
We're actually going to be out I think we're going out to dinner for Halloween because I cannot imagine doing Halloween with Cosmo because he's the greeter of the neighborhood. I mean, he's just all over the door anytime the doorbell rings. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm going out to eat. I'm not doing that.
Oh man.
We don't get any kids in here.
Well,
Kids don't come into the complex. So
I'm
we
going
never.
to trunk or treat at church tomorrow night. So I'll go buy a bag of candy and take it with
Lots
me.
of times we're in Toronto for Halloween. And so we go out trick-or-treating with the boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
I'm not doing it
It's
with
another
the
thing I miss. I just like doing things with the boys, and we just haven't been there. But we are hoping we can go in April, and we're definitely going to have to go next October for Jack's.
And then you'll go next October for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think you'll be fine.
yeah.
So Miss Carla, what is on tap for today, Miss Carla?
So we were talking the other day about delegation and responsibility, and can you have one without the other? And I remember years and years and years ago when, well, even more recent situations, people would delegate, but they would also delegate the responsibility to the person, but they wouldn't take responsibility for it themselves as a leader. I personally think that you can't have one without the other. That if you're delegating responsibility to someone, but the ultimate responsibility comes back on you. And there's a great graphic that I sent you, Chris, that you can pull up that talked about delegating and the 3 elements of delegation. And the first one that they talked about was authority. That sadly, the article is called managers. I think of them as leaders. Leaders have the authority to delegate tasks to a certain project to people. And, they also talk about how you ought to, when you're delegating, look at the different qualifications that somebody has and their ability to take care of the task. And also, if they need training, be sure that you're going to give them training without micromanagement. Then they talk about what was the second one? Responsibility. And I think it's a dual responsibility. If I'm giving a task to somebody to do and saying, hey, can you take care of this part? Hey, can you take care of social media? You're great at social media. This is kind of what we're looking for, and work together with them on that. I'm actually giving them that responsibility. But if they don't accept that responsibility, it ultimately falls back on me. Because I'm the one that started the project and gave out the responsibility to different people. And too many leaders or managers, so to speak, I guess, would just say, well, I told them to do it. It's not my fault that they didn't do it. And to me, that's totally untrue. I think that there is a dual responsibility there. And then there's also accountability factor, too, that you have an accountability to get the task done. If you accept to do it, you're accountable for doing it. And if you don't understand what's going on, you thought you understood, and then you started doing it, and then you had questions. If you didn't approach it because you didn't want to have to ask any questions, or you didn't want to appear dumb, that's not going to get the project done. What you need to do in having accountability is the fact that you need to be asking for help, and to get it done, and be accountable for what you have accepted as a team member to do. And
well, see, I just like what Michael just said. If you expect it, it's up to you to inspect it.
What was that? If you accept it, it's up to you to inspect it. What do you mean by that? Give me an example. I think if I decide to take the opportunity, I'm accountable for the manager or leader. Yeah, true. I think so. I think so. And the ultimate responsibility of the whole overall project is on the leader or manager. How, if you want, however you want to call it. I like leadership better than managing. And help them out with questions, give them a ability to do the project that needs to be done, and don't micromanage them because you're not going to help them grow at all. And ultimately, the big responsibility falls on the management, in my opinion.
And Michael just said also too is clearly defined roles, and then Graham has now just chimed in, says it's the employee's job to get the job done that they committed to, or that might be Brian. It's not the manager or leader's job to make sure they get things done. Let me make sure that's who I think it is, because if it's Brian, that's definitely a Brianism, but it could be a Grahamism too. So we'll just have to wait and see. Yep, that's a Brianism.
In theory, if I accept to do something as part of a project, then yes, I'm supposed to be accountable for it. We would want everybody to think that. But in the real world, I don't think that everybody thinks that. They pass the buck. They say, oh, well, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't understand how to do it. I didn't have time to do it. I didn't get what I needed from somebody else. And they just pass the buck. And ultimately, if that project doesn't get done, it's going to fall on me as a leader.
Well, remember that story that friend of mine told me about what happened to him?
We've shared some of the stories. I don't remember, Chris.
Well, the one about when he told me that his management went to him and said, why wasn't these labels put there on a Friday? And then all of a sudden they disappeared, and and then they come back to him and say, "Hey, you just don't know what's going on here because and this is what he told me. He's like, I put him on there. It wasn't there back on Tuesday, and then his manager said to him, well, you know what? If we get hit for it, it's not going to be a hit on us. It's going to be a hit on you for not doing that, even though he knew he put him on there. But yet his manager told him, hey, it's going to be on you, not necessarily us.
Hey, I'd say I put him there on Friday. I know I did. I don't know what happened to him. I don't have control over that.
And Michael just said, if something is to be done by a certain time, it's up to you to inspect it in a timely manner so that it is not going as it should be, but the issues that can be addressed before it is too late.
Oh, yeah. I think if you're working on a project and you're a team leader on a project, you need to be checking in with people, see how it's going, see if they need any help. You don't have to micromanage them. And see how it's going to see that it all gets done. But yes, I have a responsibility if I'm going to accept to work on a project. I have a responsibility to get it done. And if I don't, it's my fault. But those that are higher up as, over management, the VPs, they're going to say, well, you set up the team. You didn't set up the team effectively, so it's going to fall on you as a leader.
So, Ms. Carla, are you ready for the video?
Yeah. Go ahead and start the video.
All righty. Here is from John C. Maxwell about delegation.
John Maxwell here. Welcome to Minute with Maxwell. I'd like to talk to you today about delegating. I'm really good at this, and I can help you. When I was a young leader, I couldn't afford a staff. I was just in a very small country church, and they couldn't even really pay me a good salary. But I really needed some administrative help. And I knew that if I was doing administration, I surely wasn't going to be doing the things that perhaps had higher priorities for me as as the pastor of this congregation, little congregation that it was. And so I brought some ladies together and I asked them if they could help me, each one a day of the week, and help me with filing and administrating. And they bought into it, and I sat down and basically told them what I liked and how to do it. And I did my best, and I kind of got my volunteers ready. And that's basically what we did for the next 3 years and a half while I pastored that church. What I learned as a young leader is very simple. Anything that I can do that somebody can do also, they should be doing. The only thing that I should be doing are the things that are the top priorities of my life. Those I must do. Everything else, I must delegate. Now, delegation isn't because I want to be lazy. Delegation is because I want to be priority driven, and I want to be able to have a high return on what I do. So to delegate, the first thing you do is not ask, who do I pass the ball off to? Ask yourself, what do I need to be doing that no one else could do or should do? That's the question I always ask. I ask myself very simply, what do I need to do to help the organization that will help them more than anything else? Because whatever that is, that's what I should be doing. Then what I do is I delegate all the other stuff. There's not a higher compliment I think that you can give a person than to either A, ask their opinion on something, or two, ask them to help you. And I think a weakness that leaders have a lot of times is they just don't ask people to help them. And so the people would help them, but they don't know what to do. And because they've not been asked, they don't. So I would say as a leader, the first thing you do is understand that if you're going to be successful, you've got to focus on the top priorities and give your time, effort, and energy to those. The things that are required of you, the things that give you the great returns, and the things that give you the most reward in your life. Stay there. Work on those things. Everything else, pass them on. Give them to someone else. Delegate them out. Today, I am a master delegator. My wife will tell you, basically, I got it down in life, and there are only a few things I do, and I do those few things really well, and everything else, let's let someone else do it. You may have to start off with volunteers like I did, and before you can ever have a team that maybe can help you. But here's the point. Everything that you do that isn't a high priority is to reduce your effectiveness down and keep you from reaching your potential. And even more sadly, keep your organization from reaching its potential. So ask yourself simply every day, what do I have to do that no one else can do, and no one else can do it better, and that's a higher priority? Once you settle what those few things are, and there'll be a few, you can count them on one hand. Trust me, you're not that good. You don't do that many things well. Whatever those few things are, stay in your sweet spot, stay in your strength zone. Everything else, dump it or delegate it. My name's John. I'm your friend. Glad you're with us today on Minute with Maxwell.
You're muted, Carla.
Famous terrible words on social media. You're muted. I think that fits in so well with what I was reading earlier about delegation and two different levels of delegation. Number one, when you delegate to people, it allows you to do higher level things, depending on what you're doing. And like you said, doing things that other people can't do. When you're a manager, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself. And I remember when I got out of nursing school and I was a charge nurse, like the third day out of school, I was like, holy moly. But it was like I had to know a little bit about everything, which was completely different from what I had learned like in nursing school. Just I had my own little cluster of patients to take care of. And now I had to know about 20 different people. And I had to delegate by making assignments for people and kind of oversee that stuff got done. And if people needed any help with anything, that I was there. I had different things that I had to do. I could not take care of 20 something people all by myself, you know. But they also talk about when you delegate, of course, you're giving people tasks that they are best suited for. I remember in volunteer efforts years ago when I lived overseas and we would do a Christmas market. There was one girl that I'm still friends with her in the States, and she was like a craftaholic. She knew how to do all these crafts, and she teach us all how to do these crafts. And she was just so good at organizing the crafts. She would say, okay, today we're going to work on this craft that we're going to sell. And then we've got this one for tomorrow and this one for the following day. And then she was so organized, we would get like copy paper boxes and store everything in them. So, and then she'd have them all, you know, labeled. So then when we had our Christmas market, all we had to do is put them out and sell them. It was like magic. And we had a lot of fun too. But, you know, delegating people to do certain things, different parts of a project, help the organization, and it also helps in a company as well. Plus you're giving somebody the opportunity to invest in an organization and having having pride in what they're doing. You know, maybe somebody's going to say, hey, I want to help you all with your social media, and they take that on and they have pride, they have ownership, and they have a stake in what we're doing as an organization. And plus, you're going to help them develop their skills. You know, Sandy may be a leader and she may say, hey, you know, we've got this project coming up. I need somebody that's really good in X, Y, Z. And I know that because you do this, I think you would be perfect for this in X, Y, Z. Can I show you how to do it? And that then you're giving somebody the ability to add on to their skills and learn new things in a comfortable setting, instead of saying, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. They're going to want to do it. They're going to want to learn how to do something new. And so, like John Maxwell talked about, that's how you allow your organization to grow as well. So you're not only growing yourself as a leader, you're growing your people as individuals and letting them focus on their strengths, and you're also growing the organization.
Well, and also what comes up to me, Carla, is when we meet people where they are and understand where they sit and what's their passions, their purpose, their missions, their goals in life, and we see that natural alignment is there, and we can play to that and play it not only to their strengths, but also their weaker strengths, and say, hey, if you're good at social media, I'd like to show you how you can do social media. But then also in turn, once you find out what they are really good at, they can also teach you in turn and say, hey, I might be really good in social media, but you know what? I'm even better in marketing. Well, I did not know that. Then you kind of, it's almost like a diversifying a portfolio. When you do it that way and you diversify your portfolio, you understand where the best way you could do the return on an investment. So you know that you're not having all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. You can have one great guy in social media, one great person in marketing. Sandy will be really great in soft skills. And then you just play from there. And then once you see that as it is, then when you look at everyone collaborating in a unison way, then it becomes a symphony. And that symphony is great for the music that will not only be played, but who's actually conducting that symphony. How are they getting the best out of those people at any given time?
Well, if you don't allow somebody to grow, I know somebody that was in a position. She'd actually left the position, and then she ended up coming back a couple of years later, and they had promised her they asked her to come back, and they promised her the opportunity for growth. And, you know, they were they were basically treating her like an admin assistant, and she wanted to get into marketing and to writing for them, and which was her strong suit. And she was still great at whatever else she had done, but they didn't give her the opportunity to grow, so she ended up going somewhere else. And now she's working from home 3 days a week, and she's a marketing specialist, I think her title is, and she is loving every second of her job, which is how it should be. But then again, the flip side of that coin is if she was, knocking out the admin assistant type work that they were giving her, and then they gave her more things to do, she wanted them. A lot of people, if they said, here, you do this, and I'm going to let you do this too, I think you'd be great at it. And then, but you didn't really say, well, yeah, sure, I'll do it. You kind of felt like you were told you had to do it. That's when you get a lot of people that end up feeling like they're getting dumped on, rather than seeing that as an opportunity towards growth. So it's kind of a catchy situation there.
Your thoughts, Miss Sandy?
I think that the best leaders delegate the most. And that's how they get their people involved. But again, we have to know our people and know the skills they have, so we know what to delegate. And I think that, if you want people involved in the project, you have to give them something to do. And they have to own it and be responsible for it and be accountable to get it done. And if that happens, then the project will be successful. But it's a matter, again, you got to pick the right people and make sure that it's something that they can or want to do, and therefore, they will take care of it. But again, the best leaders delegate the most, and then they can stand back, and there may be certain things that they have to do, but by and large, they should be giving the work to the team, because that's really what it's all about. And so, the good leaders, they will delegate the jobs out, and that's what the team's there for. So it's pretty important to be able to do that. And I think when you're giving instructions, they've got to be clear, so that people know exactly what's expected of them. And again, don't ask them if they understood you, because they'll say yes, even if they didn't. So it's better to say, so by the way, what do you think I expect of you in this situation? And then if they can tell you, then you know that they heard your message and that they're going to move forward and take care of this particular aspect of whatever it is we're trying to do. And yes, we need to have clearly defined roles. And there may be some situations where there might be two people working together on something, and that's also okay, if it's okay with them and if they want to do it that way. But it's just a matter of, to get the things done, we've got to delegate, and everybody should have a responsibility. And then they feel, it's like the jigsaw puzzle. Then they feel they have a part, they know where to fit into the jigsaw. So it's just a matter of, again, making people feel good. And when you have chosen them to do something, then they feel, yeah, well, they think I can do this. So, I'm going to show them I can, whatever. And they will, because most people will rise to the occasion. Most will. And when you give them the opportunity to do so, then you give them the opportunity to shine. And why wouldn't they want to? So, and again, it's boring if you have nothing to do. So it's better.
Well, I like what Michael said here, and he said delegation can make or break a company efficiency and effectiveness. So it can literally make or break a company for that, because if you don't delegate in the right way at the right time, then there could be a wasted opportunity on growth and thriving ability, creating that product or service that's going to have the end result that not only is the client or customer looking for, but also what you're looking for from a leadership dynamic paradigm, because you're wanting that to have that win-win-win situation. And if that's not going to be effective enough from all 3 points, then why do we do what we do?
Well, it is important that everybody feels that they're contributing and that they have something specific to do. And when you delegate out parts of something. Because the thing is this, it's not up to the leader or the manager to do the whole thing. I mean, it's just not. I'm sorry. You have a team. Use your team. Give them aspects of the job, whatever it may be, so that they can be involved and have something to do and feel like they're a part of the big picture, which is really important. And, again, you got to pick the right people to do the right things. But if you know your people, that shouldn't be a problem.
Well, do you feel like the leader has the ultimate responsibility for the success of the group?
Well, maybe in the end, Carla, but I think, again, if you know your people and you give them a job to do and they know that you've done your part in terms of you've done whatever it is you have to do, then that's the example for them. Again, it's the old talking the talk isn't good enough. You got to walk the walk. So if the group leader demonstrates that, they're doing their part and everybody else is expected to do their part, and then they feel like they're part of the whole thing, and they're more likely to do what they need to do, because it is important to feel, like you're attached, like you're doing something that's important for the group. Otherwise, you're on the outside looking in, and it's got to not be very comfortable, and so on and so forth. But again, the leader needs to know the people, so they need to know what they're capable of or what they might like to do. And if you've been listening to them, you should have a pretty good idea. And again, it doesn't hurt to challenge someone, to give them something that they may have to stretch a little bit for. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's an opportunity for them to learn. And that's always something that's important.
Step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Step over that line that you've drawn in the sand.
Well, I think people's first encounter, I think, with working in groups and whatnot, it reminds me of I ran into it when I was in school, and my daughter ran into it when she was in graduate school, that they'd have group projects. And anytime I'd get into a class and the professor would say, we're going to do a group project, I would just cringe, because I knew that there was going to be somebody that was not going to uphold their end of the whole deal. And we were put into groups. We didn't necessarily choose the group because we didn't know the individuals. And then, the end of the thing, everybody else was doing all the work for the project, and somebody over here wasn't doing their fair share of it and wanted to get in on all the credit. And I was like, oh, heck no. It ain't going to happen, But, I think some people have got kind of that bad taste about delegating projects and things like that, because especially if they don't know them. But when you're in leadership, you need to get to know your people, and then it makes it easy to delegate.
It's like John Maxwell said, listen, learn, lead. If you haven't listened to your people, so you don't know them, it's going to be very hard to lead them, because you don't understand them. You don't know what they really want. You don't know where they're coming from. So that makes it pretty hard to lead them. So you really have to listen to find out what people want to do, and maybe what they want to learn, and then help them. Give them the opportunity to learn some new things, challenge them. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of people, again, if you're a robot, it's boring. You got to do the same thing over and over again. It's kind of more interesting to learn something new, and it keeps them more engaged. So, it's just, again, I'm going to use my favorite expression, not rocket science. Well, it's really not. It's about knowing your people and helping them to develop and fulfill their potential by giving them the opportunity to do so. And that's why you delegate certain things to them and explain, everybody is responsible for what their job is. And so you have to complete it. And if there are deadlines, you've got, you need to tell them that too. This has to be done by such and such a time, and so on and so forth, because we are working towards an end, and certain things have to be done in a certain order. It's like in construction. You can't, do wiring until the walls are up. It's a matter of what are you doing? And there has to be an order. And they need to know what is expected of them, and when they have to be done, whatever it is they're supposed to do. So if you give clear instructions and you check to make sure that they heard it and understood it, then we're good to go.
Yeah, and then when you're given instructions and you accept to do a task, you're accepting accountability that goes along with that.
Absolutely.
And you have to, if for some reason you start digging into it and you thought you understood and you have a question, well, what about this? What about that? You got to ask about it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just going to throw up a roadblock and you're not going to get it done.
Well, there's nothing wrong with asking questions.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's the only way you learn sometimes. You got to ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a leader, you shouldn't be micromanaging people.
No, absolutely not.
If they know what to do, let them do what they need to do. You ask them if they need any help. How's it going? But otherwise, they can do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But it's just...
Graham just said here, Charles Pellerin, who is a rocket scientist, has developed a good framework for building and developing teams. That comes from Graham. But back to your little chart here, Carla. I like when you said earlier that from authority to responsibility and accountability, everyone has a role to play within that. Everyone has a specific way of why they're doing what they're doing in each of those areas. And I believe we all have that role, whether to be in leadership or a team lead or a person in the team or department or whatever. We have that role to play. But once we understand that role, not only are we accountable to ourselves, but we're accountable to each and every single person within that team or in an adjacent department, whatever. But also, in the grand scheme of things, we're also accountable to the end result, which that would be the consumer and or customer or client or whatever. Because, see, this is what my dad taught me at a very young age. Chris, whatever you'll do and whatever you do, you got to put your name on things each and every single time, even those for those people who never see who you are. And once that has been done, again, it goes almost kind of interconnected to about legacy. Your legacy will be literally on that billboard or on that piece of furniture or on that. And people really take pride in that, saying, I did that. And they're going to say, how did you do that? Well, this is what I did many years ago. And sometimes that stands the test of time to such an extent that you can look back 20, 30 years from now and saying, hey, I created that 30 years ago. And that means something to a lot of people.
You got to own what you do, Chris. That's what accountability is. You got to take responsibility for whatever it is that you're assigned. And if you do that and you are accountable to what you have agreed to do, then, it's good. And most people need to do that. And the ones that don't, you're right, Carla, we don't want them on the team. They're just a pain in the ass because they don't do what they're supposed to do. And that means that some aspect of the job doesn't get done. And that's not very good. So people need to, they need to own what they're doing, and they need to be responsible for whatever piece of the puzzle they are supposed to be putting forward.
Well, you want to be proud and put your name on whatever it is that you're doing and what you had to contribute. It's like, when I was a few years ago learning how to set up my profile for LinkedIn, and somebody was talking about, any of the publications that you do should have your name on it. And, even if it was years ago. And I remember when my kids played soccer and I was a team mom for their traveling team. So they had like the recreational people and then they had the travel people. And, I got there was somebody that offered to do a spreadsheet for the whole team to where we could everyone contributed a certain amount of money per month that paid for tournaments and all that kind of stuff, and paid for their equipment, stuff like that. was so long ago, I can't remember what I was on it, but it was a cool spreadsheet. But anyway, that turned into, I knew what I had gone throughout the years to learn about being a team manager, so to speak. And I wrote a guide for our league. And so that's something that, I think, well, that wasn't anything great, but it was something that at the time I was proud to put my name on. And that turned into getting other team managers together and showing them the easy way to do something, not making it complicated. But whatever it is we do, we need to make sure that we have enough pride in what we do to not do it half-assed and to be able and say, I can put my name on that with pride.
Yeah, and actually, I checked in the live stream because I had to update it. This quote this comment actually came from Brian. So this is another Brianism. So he's good in history. So never heard of Charles Pellerin, but evidently he has a good framework for building and developing teams. So
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I have to look into that because, like I said, never heard of the guy. But Brian, I know you're watching. Was he a rocket scientist back in the 1950s?
Way before you were born, Brian?
I'm thinking so because I never heard of this gentleman, Charles Pellerin, who's a rocket scientist. That's what he does. Oh, he worked for NASA. Wow.
Okay.
That is something. He actually did work for NASA. Wow.
That's a pretty hefty project.
Working for NASA it is. Yes.
You screw that project up and you're highly accountable.
Well, speaking of which, there is a show on, I believe, Netflix.
He was a former director of NASA, Astrophysicist Division. He oversaw an annual budget of $750 million.
Wow.
A dozen satellites and led the team that repaired the Hubble Space Telescope.
That's what Brian just said.
Yep.
Yep. That's the guy. And I think it's actually the about the last rocket that this took the Inspiration 4 crew. That's what it was. SpaceX was in charge of the mission before to take SpaceX, take him to, I guess, probably to the Hubble telescope, and they had to go fix it, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. This is what had to be done. I remember that now because I remember the guy saying to the team, "No, this is the way it has to be done, and it has to go through me." And when I heard that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But the guy won a Nobel Peace Prize, if I'm correct, Brian, and he actually went before Congress as well, if I'm correct.
We have the book, How NASA Builds. Let's try that again. How NASA Builds Teams, Mission Critical Soft Skills for Scientists, Engineers, and Project Teams.
Wow.
Andy's like, I'm looking that book up.
Maybe we can get him on the show. That'd be kind of nice,
You don't know if you don't ask, Chris.
Oh, I think this came from Brian. He says he created the 4D system and wrote a book on how NASA builds team. Is pretty technically written. The 4Ds. What is the 4Ds? I've heard of the 3D, but the 4D, that's something new. And evidently,
I read it years ago.
Oh.
Okay, this might be a Graham one because let's see. Yeah, Graham said how did he developed teams, and Brian said, of course, in the previous comment, he read it years ago. Yeah. You got to have great teams on NASA. I'll have to say that. In fact,
You have to.
when I was a
You can't
kid,
screw that up.
I went to Cape Canaveral, and that's where Patrick Air Force Base is at. And I remember years ago when actually the guy who actually worked the context shifting worksheet, okay, that must be from Brian. So let's see. Yep, that's from Brian. The context shifting worksheet. That must be from that guy. Wow.
Those are pretty intricate projects that have to
You
be
know what?
done.
It doesn't matter where you work. Okay, NASA, yeah, but anywhere that you work, the team has to be well designed and has to have the right people on it so that you can do what you need to do. And that's why different people are hired onto the team, because they bring a set of skills that are important for whatever that team is trying to do. And that's why I've also mentioned sometimes when teams are working together, the leadership of the team might move around the table depending on what you're doing at the time. And the person who has the expertise for that aspect of the project might be leading it at that particular moment because they have the expertise to do so. So it's just a matter of choosing the right people to be on your team so that you can accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do. So it isn't just NASA, it's whatever, like, that, Carla, if you've got a team of nurses and you're trying to do something, they all need to have the skills necessary to do it. And in the dental office, we needed the receptionist, and we needed the dentist, and we needed the assistants, and we needed the hygienist in order to deliver all the services to the patients, because otherwise you can't. And so it's very important to have, and I told you in one of my dad's offices, we actually had a lab guy, and he had a lab right in the office. So we didn't need to be sending impressions out, because you could just give them to him and he could do it right. Jim could do it right there in the office.
Right.
So, that was handy, because if there were any problems, he was there and he could fix it. So it's just a matter of, how are you setting up your team in order to be able to be efficient and effective and to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with your team. And, it has to be people who bring to the table the kinds of skills that are necessary to do whatever it is you are trying to do with your organization. So, Graham sent you a sample. What, a sample of the document?
Yeah, evidently it's from his the context shifting worksheet.
Okay.
That's what that guy created.
But again, it's a matter of, again, dealing with people. And it's very important to be able to do that. And the bottom line is effective communication. You can't communicate effectively, you're going to have all kinds of miscommunication, confusion, disappointment, resentment, all sorts of things, because things aren't going to turn out right. And again, active listening needs feedback. Unfortunately, as human beings, we aren't mind readers. So you don't know what's going on in somebody's head. And just because they're sitting there looking at you doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually listening to you. Because, when someone comes to the table with a preconceived idea, or they're tired, or they're hungry, or they're not feeling well, or they're too hot, or they're too cold, or they've got a problem of their own, most of those things are going to supersede anything that you're going to say to them. So they're not going to hear you. So it's very important. And again, don't ask them if they understood you, because everybody's going to say yes. Well, it's true, Chris. They don't want you to think they're stupid. And they don't want you to think they weren't paying attention, even if you weren't. So it's much better to actually get some concrete feedback and ask them, what do you think I expect of you? So that you do find out if they got the message and if they understand what it is they are supposed to do. Because otherwise you won't get what you want.
Yeah.
And, just because you tell someone something doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want unless you get some concrete feedback to discover if in fact they heard your message. So if they did, we're good to go. And you can even say that. I just want to make sure we're on the same page before we part ways here. So what do you think I expect of you? I mean, it doesn't need to be nasty. It just needs to be that, we're looking for some concrete feedback here because we just want to make sure that we're on the same page and that I'm going to get what I want and you're going to do what you need to do. So, again, it's just a matter of ensuring that we are on the same page when we're working together, because that is really important. So that's why you have to get some concrete feedback from
That's why they say that in a lot of healthcare, they do the see one, teach one, do one, to where you can see how it's done, they teach you how to do it, and then you get a return demonstration.
Yeah.
Just like if you're teaching somebody how to brush their teeth.
Yeah. Well, I used to do it, and I would do it. And then I would give them the toothbrush and have them show me back what they just saw so that I knew that they actually got it. Because otherwise you don't know. And you need to see a demonstration to make sure that they're putting the toothbrush where it should be put. And so they're going to be able to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what are you doing? If we're teaching people things, we need to make sure that they're getting the message.
Yeah, we used to teach patients how to do fertility injections, and it took an hour to show them the different products that they were using, and a lot of them were not learning how to do it because they had that fear of that first injection sitting in front of them. So I would always show them. I would have them do an injection of saline to themselves. And once they got past that, they would start looking at the different products and figuring out and learning how to mix them or whatnot. And then we always had backup material, and they still had questions. They still had ways of kind of messing it up, so to speak. But some people. But then they just need a video. And I'm like, that's not going to go over well, guys. Not going to go over well. And then I went to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy can show them how to do it. And I'm thinking, disaster. And it didn't turn out.
Well, this is what Graham just said back over to Brian. He's like, champion, if NASA wants me to start a team out, I should be good to go next week. All right, Graham. If you can go work at NASA,
off you go.
I know you'll do well here too as well. I just know it. But we got to get you back on the live stream.
Yeah.
And
Just want the dinner.
I'm not worried about the gift card, Carla. I'm not even worried about that. I'm not.
We just want to see him. We just want to see you, Graham. Where's your face?
Yeah, you put yourself back on mute there, Carla.
I know. And then I just
turned off your video.
There we go. Who said I was technologically savvy? Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everything changes from day to day.
Oh gosh, yes it does. No 2 days are alike in my world.
That's just anybody. And you think about it from a team perspective when it comes to accountability and all the other things that's intertwined with that, responsibility and authority. That's going to look differently each and every single day. That's going to be not the very same thing every single time. And once we recognize that, then things can be done easily. Because, see, that's the one thing that I know that's always going to be the constant. Change is always going to be the constant. You can't get rid of that. But also, I also recognize not only from a human dynamic standpoint, but also a leadership standpoint, that you can't fight human nature. You have to embrace it and take it for what it is.
And everybody's different, Chris.
Yeah.
So even if you have the same message, sometimes you got to package it a little differently so that you get the person's attention and engage them. And that's why you have to know your people.
Well, I think you can be accountable to a group for a project that you're doing which I think is important. When you accept the responsibility for doing your part of the project, you have to be accountable. But I think once you make yourself accountable to yourself and realize, even though if I don't really want to work on that project today, I still have a deadline and I'm still going to do it. Be accountable to yourself first, and not just put it off and say, "Oh, I'll do it later." It's like a kid putting their homework off until the night before and telling their parents they have a project that's due the next morning and they need poster board at 9:00 at night. If you had been accountable to yourself to begin with, so that you had to get it done and get it done even though you don't want to do it, then it would be done already.
Yep.
So I think that goes a long way. And once you can make yourself accountable to yourself, you're going to be accountable to the team that you work with.
Well, and part of it is being organized.
That's how you show up.
Well, part of it is being organized. If you sort of have a plan of what you're going to do day by day or whatever to get done what you need to get done, then, and it doesn't hurt for kids to learn to be organized as well, so that, at 9:00 at night, they're not looking for poster board.
Yeah.
They got it yesterday.
And telling the teacher, well, I didn't get my project done because my mom wouldn't run out to the grocery store at 9:00 at night.
Well, this is what Brian just said. I guess because you got to remember, he used to also talk in the university system. He says we used to give group projects to students in some classes, and the students had the ability to kick other members of that group if they didn't do their work.
My daughter ran into that when she was in graduate school, getting her master's degree in international finance and accounting. They had group projects to work on, and there was a guy that was a freeloader in the group, and he didn't turn in his part of the project, and everybody else had to do his part of the project to get a grade. And of course, he had in the book, and every other person in the group wrote a letter to the teacher, and he didn't get any credit for the project at all, and he ended up failing the course. And he actually went back to everybody and said, "How come you wouldn't let me participate?" It's like, look, you didn't even step up to the plate and do what you were supposed to. You never showed up to any of the team meetings that we had along the way. And had you really been afraid, you would have done the work. So he was supposed to graduate. He never graduated. So I love the fact that they can kick people out of the group like that. I reported somebody that was in a group of ours when I was in my bachelor's. I ran into that.
But then that comes back to the accountability. Even if you're in school and you're doing a group project, you should be able to be accountable to everyone on that group project. Because again, if you're getting it for a grade, or if you're doing it for work, or whatever it may be, the end result, it's things that need to get done. And if I was wanting to get that grade and I want to get that master's degree, I need to put in the work. Just like we do everything for a reason. It's like when you go play football. Why did Tom Brady become one of the best Super Bowl quarterbacks in NFL history? Because he was willing to put in the work. Same thing when it came to who was it? Greg LeMond, who actually won like 8 Tour de France's. He was willing to put in the work. Now, mind you, there was a lot of controversy of why he did. No. That wasn't Greg LeMond. That was.
Are you talking about Lance Armstrong?
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. Yeah, he's the one that actually had the kind of enhancement, as they say.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah. Greg LeMond, he won 8 as well, I believe, and I think, if I remember right, Lance Armstrong actually won 9? I think it was. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
but again, they were willing to put in the work.
Well, look at Tiger Woods.
Huh?
Look at all the work that Tiger Woods put in golf all those years. He was willing
Yeah,
to
and Lance Armstrong, he cheated his way. that definitely has to come from Brian, I guarantee you, because
yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I
Tiger
don't know
Woods,
whether he did or not. He has to
Tiger
live.
Woods was one of the first golfers to start lifting weights and doing some other things to, strengthen himself.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
who was it? John Daly used to go with a pack of cigarettes and all had a bag full of Diet Cokes.
God,
Yeah.
it's too bad that he was in that terrible car accident and he hasn't been able to come back.
Tiger. Yeah, he hasn't been the same since. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. What was that comment?
They all do though. And I think that might have been from Brian, but I'll check here in a second. And I'm gonna be refreshing the live stream to see if that's what he said. And yep, they all do though. He was just replying back. But yeah, I believe we can put in the work, because if we don't put in the work, what kind of results are we going to do? And I will go back to this. If we are willing to create that better environment for ourselves, I truly believe we can create that better result that we want to as well. When you also think in relevance to a leadership and organizational dynamic, if you take part in that and you are effort driven and purpose driven to put your part into that, that environment is going to come from all sides of that dynamic, and everyone will have a part and role to play in that better environment to create that better result. Because if they're not willing to do it, it's just like, hey, Carla, I'm sorry, but I didn't put in my work in on this project. I know I'm not going to get my master's degree, so you're going to have to do the rest of the work. And you come to be looking at me like, why? I don't want to do the work. And you can't do that. You can't put things off to other people and then take either the credit for it or get recognized for doing something that you didn't put the work into.
Yeah. How true. And you took responsibility for what you were going to do in a group or at work or whatever, but you didn't hold yourself accountable.
When you're in a team, you want to be accountable, because then people will trust you and know that you're reliable. Because otherwise, if they don't trust you and they don't think you're reliable, it's going to make everybody uncomfortable if you say you're going to do something, because they worry that you won't do it.
And then when the next project comes up, they're going to go, is she going to drop out again?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to carry her weight again?
Well, it's because, you don't trust them anymore.
Is he going to freeload on this project again and expect us all to carry the weight? And that's where the resentment and the mistrust comes into play. And that breaks down the team.
Yes, absolutely, Carla. So it's very important to be an accountable team member. Own what you do and do it.
Yes.
Take responsibility for whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing and get it done.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that the leader themselves is ultimately responsible for the success or failure of the project?
Well, I think they are, from the perspective that they have delegated things to the appropriate people. And if they had questions or if they need support, that the manager or the leader is there to support them. And that is a role. But I don't think it's up to them to make sure that everything happens, because that's micromanaging, and most people don't like that. If somebody needs some help or they have a question or whatever, then yes, then they should come back to the manager or even one of the team members that they think might know and find out what else they can do, or can they do this a different way or whatever. But to just leave it and not get it done, I'm sorry, you're letting your team down, and you're letting yourself down too. I mean, it's not how you behave when you're part of a team that's working together towards achieving some end.
Well, if it were me, I would feel like I would have a part in I would have some sort of responsibility in that, because I actually chose people to do the different things that needed to be done on the project. And if I failed in any way, not to follow up with them to see how it was going and see that things were getting done along the way, I don't feel like I have any right to say, well, sorry, to my higher up, hey, it didn't get done because Joe Blow over here just didn't do his part.
Well, this is what Graham just said. He said this conversation goes back to what Brian said this week. If people take responsibility for their work, they can make the land manager look good. But also, this is what Brian just said on the live stream, and I won't be able to put it in there because it's so big as far as putting in the context on the live stream, so I will take too much room up. But this is what
did he write a paper on it?
Yeah. This is what Brian just said. Responsibility begins with the willingness to take the stand for one is the cause in the matter of one's life. It is a declaration, not an assertion. That is. It is a context from which one chooses to live. Responsibility is not a burden, fault, praise, blame, credit, shame, or guilt. In responsibility, there is no evaluation of good or bad, right or wrong. There is simply what so. And to stand and take the stand that you choose to take on what is so. Being responsible starts with the willingness to deal with a situation from the view of life that you are the generator of what you do and what you have and what you are. And that is from Brian. Can't hear you. You're on mute.
You're muted. That statement is great. I think if you have the emotional maturity to see it that way. But there are people that take on, say, I'm going to take on the, I'll take on the task because they don't want to say no. And then they don't want to do it. And then they're going to play around and not get it done. And I just think that in some respects, hopefully it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And that's the real world. And, maybe I as a leader chose wrong. But I, as a leader, also have a responsibility to see if I've got 3 different components of a project that has to get done, and I'm following up with people to see how it's going. If I don't see that someone's getting any traction on what they're supposed to be doing, I have the authority to say, hey, how's the project going? Do you have questions on it? Can I help you out with anything? Is there something that might not be clear? We have this project due the end of next week, because in the end, it's got to get done. And I think that as a leader, there is a way to not have to micromanage people, but sometimes you have to say, hey, look, we have to have some accountability here. We've got to get this done.
That's fair enough. It's, I think basically, my call to action would be, again, good leaders delegate the most. And it's a matter of knowing your team so that you know who you can delegate certain things to and that you do it. And yes, there's nothing wrong with following up, just asking how people are doing. So how's everyone doing? Anybody have any problems? Can I help you with something? Whatever. There's nothing wrong with offering that. And, especially if it appears to you that they're not getting it done. So are you stuck? Do you need a help, a little helping hand here? How can I assist you so that we can move forward? Because as you know, this has to be finished by the end of the week, and this is part of it, and it needs to be taken care of. So please, let's move forward with it. And again, if you need some help, I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I think that your leadership is such that you are, the people know that you're in it with them to win it, and that you're carrying your weight, and that you're a partner in this as well. And you're not just sitting back, playing on your phone going, well, you know, how you guys doing? That project's due at the end of the week. Oh, hold on. Somebody's texting me, you know, just something like that. Show them that you're in it and you're working too, and not just sitting back, delegating work out to them because you don't want to have to do anything. If they see that you're doing it too, and you're there as an effective team member as well, they're going to want to do it more. And
Well, that's
see,
that's the walking the walk, Carla.
walking the walk and talking the talk. They're going to want to be a part of the team.
You got to walk the walk. And if you do that, then you're demonstrating what you want from them, and there's a far better chance that they're going to emulate it. Otherwise, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, like the people that I work with, if I don't show them that I'm advancing in the company and I'm not attending meetings and I'm not helping other people out, they're going to go, well, she's not doing it. I'm not going to do it. You know, they're only going to do half of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to set the example for somebody, and that's walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah.
And being there to help people and help people grow.
And my call to action will be simply this, and I will get to what Graham just said, though. Here's his call to action first. To take accountability for what I'm required to do. And that is so true, Graham. But the way I started off is just understanding your role within the dynamic, whether it be a team environment or leadership, whatever that might come to you at. Because there's going to be different roles for different people at different functions of the organization. It's going to be different from a leader. It's going to be different from a team member. It's going to be different from even a place of sales and marketing, social media. It's what are you willing to put into work to do, get the result that you're so desiring, not only personally, but also for the whole organization as a whole. Because see, once you do your part into that, your part is going to be really well received. And this is what Brian's call to action is. Take a stand for the future. It is to bring forth a new opportunity, not one derived from the past, but an opportunity created from a future which we give ourselves. That is so true, Brian. That is so true. That is so true. So, again, as always, ladies, and Brian and Graham and everyone watching, Michael, thank you all for joining us again today for Humanity Happy Hour. We're so humbled and honored that you guys take part in this each and every single week. And we're so grateful and honored for especially you, Brian and Graham, for always engaging. You're bringing great value to us each and every single time. And granted, I just truly believe that once we recognize our place in space in all things, we got to recognize the changes that comes out of that too as well, because change is always a constant. So as always, Carla, you're hitting home runs. Sandy, you're hitting home runs like no other time. I mean, we all can do that. We can always hit home runs not only for ourselves, but also we can hit home runs for others. Once we do that, home runs will be coming in left and right.
On that note, I'll say, go Braves.
Yep, that's the reason I say that. Chop, chop, chop. There you go.
We lost last night.
I know. Don't remind me.
But that's okay.
But we got the next 3 games at home.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's good.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great evening and a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see you next Tuesday for Sharing Care with Sandy.
Y'all have a great weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.